by my co-host here, Jonas Clark of Project Spurs. Jonas, this was a great win for the San Antonio Spurs. They keep their playoff hopes alive by defeating Houston Rockets. Jonas, I mean, I don't know what to say, dude. I kind of was on the fence about this game, and then we found out about, was it 2 hours before tip-off, that Derek White was going to, in fact, be available for this game. So then I got excited again. I just didn't want to have my heart broken, but I'm glad they got the win, against the Houston Rockets by a final score of 123 to 105. The San Antonio Spurs are going to actually need some help today because we have the Suns playing. We also have the Phoenix Suns. We have the Memphis Grizzlies, the Portland Trail Blazers playing. Everybody who's in front of us and is right there with us in the West is playing today. So it's going to be a long day of watching games and hoping, that some of these teams will lose. Namely, we need the Suns to lose, and we also need Portland Trail Blazers to lose. If the Grizzlies lose, that helps us that much more. So we keep winning, though, but that's the important thing. Brian Mendoza, he's a big Houston Rockets fan, joining us here on Facebook. Spurs just wanted it more. The Rockets played like trash and didn't want it. Well, the Rockets were without one of their better players in James Harden. So you have that. Russell Westbrook was getting locked up all game by Keldon Big Body Johnson, who had a team, not a team high, but he had a career high 24 points. So that was something right there. Keldon came to play today.
Yeah, big game.
And Jonas, what did you see in today's games? What were your observations?
Well, I think the big thing was we were definitely helped by the absence of James Harden, but there is a second star over there in Houston, and we took care of business against Russell Westbrook. And just they highlighted it at the halftime break, but the difference in 3-point shooting and 3-point effectiveness, and we really limited the Houston Rockets to 3-point attempts. I think they had 17 in the first half, and that's definitely below pace for their team that's kind of built around the 3-point shot. And granted, they were missing, not just James Harden, but I think House was out tonight. I can't recall. They had another mid-tier name missing this evening too. But if you're on the Houston Rockets, you know how to shoot a 3-ball. So
really, Ben Gordon.
It's just great. I'm sorry?
Gordon was out too.
Yeah, Gordon was out. And so when you just look at kind of how we won the game like we were supposed to, 4 quarters. I think it was just the last game or maybe the game before where I asked, where you say you give the Spurs $1 and you're gonna get shortchanged because we haven't been able to do that third. And, I even put out on Twitter that I was kind of cautious going into that, coming out of halftime, and had a bad feeling about the third quarter again. But we won the third quarter battle tonight. They won 3 out of the 4 quarters on the scoreboard. The only one we didn't take was the fourth quarter. But we had, an Austin rotation out there with the exception of Marco Bellinelli for the entire final, 3.5, 4 minutes of this game. So I'll definitely take that.
They first looked good right out of the gate. They played with the energy. They didn't let Houston get out to a big lead. You could tell Derek White was bothered by his injury, but he was still playing at a high level. He was still drawing charges, playing defense, while he wasn't scoring at the pace that we're used to. He did a lot of little things out there to really set this team up, get the win today. And, just kudos to everybody all around. I think everybody played an all-around great game. It was a good team effort all around from everybody. Jakob Portal, Drew Eubanks, Mar DeRozan, Jonte Murray, Derek White, Lonnie Walker. Everybody was contributing. Rudy Gay again, was contributing again. Even though he's a savvy vet, and he's getting up there in age, he was still balling today. So, couldn't say enough good things about everybody. I mean, they got in a little bit of trouble there in the third. They were able to kind of compose themselves again. Rockets started putting the pressure on them near the end of the third, beginning of the fourth. Spurs were able to withstand the storm, so to speak, find ways to score. And then, they started knocking down threes, and the game just opened up again for them. And that was it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Houston dug themselves a hole so deep they just couldn't climb back out of it. So good, well around effort from everybody tonight. I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the stats, but I know that we have that Utah game coming up, on Thursday. That's going to be a pivotal game, dependent on what happens today, in all these other games that we have. I'm just nervous, man. I don't know how else to say it. I'm scared, that we might not get what we need. But you know what? Regardless of what happens, it's like Coach Pop said. If the Spurs make the playoffs, it's icing on the cake. But he was ecstatic by that quote that I saw earlier today of the progress of all the younger players, as far as what they have been doing, the progression that they've made. And he said, hey, if they make the playoffs, that's just icing on the cake. But he's really happy with how everybody has developed. Today, we had DeMar DeRozan playing 28 minutes, 23 points. DeJounte Murray, 29 minutes, 11 points. Lacaporto, your boy, 27 minutes, 14 points. Lonnie Walker.
And 12 rebounds.
12 rebounds.
A double-double from Jakob Poeltl. That's what I've been begging for, and I
he was
got it
6 of
again.
7. 6 of 7 for shooting from the floor tonight, so you have that as well.
And 2 of 3 from the stripe.
Oh, yeah,
2 of 3 from the stripe. What a night. What a night for Jakob Poeltl.
Yep, and then we had Lonnie Walker with 29 minutes. He had 12 points on the night. Derek White, 25 minutes, he had 7 points on the night. Marco Beninelli played 21 minutes, 13 points. Drew Eubanks, 14 minutes. He had 4 points, 7 rebounds, and he had shot, 1 of 4. So he wasn't really good from the floor as far as shooting, but he was contributing out there. Rudy Gay, he had 18 minutes tonight. He had 13 points. Keldon Big Body Johnson, 25 minutes on today's game, 24 points. He had 11 rebounds, 8 of 12 from the field. I mean, 3-pointers, 3 of 3. His free throws, 5 of 5. I mean, the kid is just unreal. The plus minus, he was plus 21 on the night. So Keldon Big Body Johnson brought it. Quindary Weatherspoon, I was happy to say, got a little bit of run out there, and so did Lucas Samanic. Even though they didn't score any points, at least they got some run out there. And let's go ahead and read some of the comments from our viewers right here. Thank you guys for everybody who's listening, and tuning in right now. We greatly appreciate y'all's support. We couldn't make this show go without you, so thank you so much for interacting with us. Shout out to you, Brian Mendoza. Gail, she's in here. She says, hi, y'all. Great game today. It was. Manny Jimenez, hell of a game by Johnson. Future is so bright. Need some help now. I agree with you. And Gail again, go Spurs, go. Rich Boy, 217, go Spurs, go. Tim Rodriguez joining us from YouTube. Wow, Joe, we are still in it. We have to have the Blazers and Suns loose now. I know that's what scares me, man. I'm still nervous about that. Karen Blanco, she's joining us from YouTube. Hey, Joe, are we sure this is good Spurs or ass Rockets? No, this was good Spurs. Cesar Guzman giving us the little thumbs, the fingers up, the basketball, go Spurs, go. And emojis. Sergio Lozano said, now we watch and see if we can get lucky. True that, man. He's joining us from Facebook. Dervin Pena, you think Kelvin Johnson will take the starting spot from Forbes, or will he stay a spark off the bench? That's going to be tough going into next season. That's something that the coaching staff's going to have to, I guess, determine. And they're going to have to see what the players look like, not only in the summer league, if they even have that, but also in, when everything resumes back to normal again and they have their training camp.
And we have to figure if Bryn Forbes is even going to be on this roster next year.
That
he is a
big
free agent.
Factor. Big factor.
But it goes to the Spurs have really stuck with this lineup, and even with Derek coming back off of that knee contusion, which again was just a bruise, and we hoped that it wasn't going to be anything much more than that. But this starting lineup right now is strong.
They're very efficient.
Of itself. Yeah. I think that Bryn has already lost the starting job, which if you go to what I've said and been preaching all along over the last 2 years, that I've been doing this with you here, Joe, Bryn Forbes is not a starter, right? But I think that Lonnie has shown that he fits really great in that starting spot. And then as Ben and I were talking about, I think on the last episode of Spurs Takeover, that it's going to actually be Lonnie's spot that Keldon sends to the bench. And then you have Lonnie coming in as your sixth man with Keldon taking that starting role. But he definitely stepped up, and took care of his business today. This is, I think, his second big performance that we've seen in Orlando from Keldon, where he's top 20 points and just another very efficient night shooting. I wanted to go back to a comment that you had read where, and it's the one that I look forward to
The ass Rockets one.
every time we come on here. Yeah, is it good Spurs or ass Rockets? And actually, Joe, I think that it's a mixture of both tonight. Yes, I totally agree. Bryn Forbes is not a starter. Been preaching that all along. But this was an ass Rockets team. Again, they live and die by the three. And this afternoon, I keep wanting to say evening. This afternoon, they shot 29% against the Spurs, 40%. Okay, so if whenever you go into a battle, you want to be able to do what you do well. Whatever your strategy is, you want to be able to do it well. And if you can't do it well, then you expect to kind of lose that game. So I think that, especially as we came down the stretch, the Houston Rockets kind of knew they were just out of this from the get-go. And that's where, you saw the Spurs build a 20-plus point lead and be able to maintain that for most of this game. And so I'm going to actually say that it's a combination, but the Spurs did what they were supposed to do, and they did their job. They deserved this win. So I'm not going to take that away from them. But this Rockets team, they were asked tonight. So I'm going to give that answer a 50-50. It's a combination, and that's what gives you your score differential tonight.
Yeah, everybody's nervous. They said the Sixers are sitting guys out tonight, so that doesn't bode well for us because we needed to root for the 76ers today. But they're sitting people out. I don't know, man. That's going to be a tough one. Let's go ahead and see what some of the other people were saying here, too. Shout out to Alexander Mesquite. He has just joined Spurs going to the playoffs. See you on Commerce Street. Maybe, Alexander, maybe we'll all go honking. That'll be a thing. It saves social distancing. We're in our cars, we can honk. As long as we're wearing our masks.
Do you honk even if you just make the playoffs? Then are we going to go honking?
Yeah,
because
definitely.
we had to play this bubble, this play-in was kind of a playoff of itself.
I know we need to definitely go honking if the Spurs make the playoffs. I want to see everybody out there honking, wearing their Spurs gear, wearing their mask, hanging out the windows, giving high fives, that kind of thing. It'll be fun. We haven't had anything to celebrate for quite some time with the Spurs because the season was so up and down. But now we have some excitement, and if they definitely do get into the playoffs, hell, we're going honking, bro. I'm going to put you in the car with me. I got flags and everything. We're going to paint our faces. We might just have to go live doing that, too. We're the only ones. Hey, we're still going to go honking.
You don't think that's going to diminish honking at all?
No.
You don't think that that's going to take away from what it really represents? It's one thing, and it's going to be kind of something that we have to watch, I think, as a fan base and as definitely as a team moving forward. If we get to the opportunity to advance through this bubble where they still have a mission to accomplish. And what is our expectation? I don't want to look too far down, but if things go our way, like you said, we need a lot of help still, but we're taking care of our part. And then if we do end up advancing, we still got business to take care of. I don't know if that's quite honking yet, because I want to see what this team
people
can
are
do.
Already agreeing with me, Jonas. They want to go honking. Let us have our fun and let us go honking, and we want to go honk. Damn it.
I'll let y'all go. I'm not gonna be in the car for this one, Joe. I think I'm gonna save it. I want that first, because you and I went honking after the 2005 replay. I want my first San Antonio honking experience to be a title.
Oh, there you go. Well, might be having to wait for a little bit there because Spurs are still, I think, 2 or 3 seasons away from title contention. Because we need
best things in life are worth waiting for.
Yeah, we needed the younger generation here to kind of develop a little bit more. But I am, excited nonetheless. If the Spurs get some help from the other teams, we can be playing for that play-in, that game on Saturday. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be win or go home. You can't say anything else other than you have to win twice in order to advance to get that eighth seed. So that would be something, man. And you know what? I'm still very proud of this team, regardless of what happens this season. As many of you guys are as well. I just think that they've battled. They found ways to kind of reinvent themselves here in the hiatus, come back. The NBA restart, and look at how good they've been playing in the bubble. Especially the youth. Who would have thought that? It just goes to show you how well the coaching staff has been developing these young players. And like Coach Pop said, he's just very proud of this team, and I think we all are. Let's see what some of the viewers are saying here. Frank Ramirez, great win. Yes, shout out to you, Frank. David Otwater, Blazers and Sun play Mavericks. Yeah, I know. I'm nervous, man. That's all I can say. Linda Frazier, he goes, I don't know about you, Joe, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up. Every team we has beaten or have beaten us. So it I don't know, man. It's a different team right now. This is a different Spurs team. We can't base it on the team that we saw earlier in the season. This team is playing at a higher level. Everybody's putting in a lot. I guess a lot more of an effort, not only just on the offense, but on the defensive end as well. And we're seeing that night in and night out. Yes, they still make some mistakes, but that's inexperience right now. But every game, they're just getting better and better. So there's a lot of things to like with the Spurs moving forward. If they make it into the playoffs, this is exactly what this youth needs. They need to see a playoff game to get that much more experience, because that's going to make them even better for next season. The further the Spurs go, the better that our youth will get. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what Frank Ramirez says. He says the future looks bright. Tim Rodriguez says, come on, Jonas, let's go honking if the Spurs win and make the playoffs. I'm with you, man. Toddy God says the Suns surprise their players with starting lineups announced by their families at home is sweet. Will just motivate them further. Yeah, the Suns are just playing at a high level right now. They look like they're really trying to go undefeated in their NBA restart at the bubble. Jason Salinas, looks like we found Forbes' replacement. I agree. Keldon Johnson is a big upgrade when you compare him to Bryn Forbes, because he can play both ends of the ball well. He can both play defense and he can play offense. He has a different mentality as far as the aggression that he shows out there on the court. I personally would rather see Keldon start in lieu of Bryn Forbes. I would much rather see Bryn come off the bench, but that's my preference.
Right, but a roster is made out of 17 guys, right? When you add in your two-way contracts, that's 17 total players to pull from. 15 to actually get to make the trip to, be on court, on the side of the court for games. Bryn Forbes does not have to go. Yes, Keldon is better than Bryn Forbes. He went to a better program in college than Bryn Forbes. He was recruited better than Bryn Forbes, and he's a better player than Bryn Forbes. But Bryn Forbes has a sharpshooter specialty, and that's all he is. Does he deserve to start over Keldon Johnson? No. But if we're seeing anything coming out right now in this Orlando bubble that we didn't have during the season, it's that the Austin Spurs process works. I've said it, in my Project Spurs articles. I've said it here with you, Joe, and I've said it so many other places, especially on Twitter.
We have a viewer right now, Alicia Cunningham. She says, Keldon is a beast. I love him. And she also says, Bryn cannot start again for the Spurs.
Right, and I've already said Bryn is not a starter.
Yeah.
So I've said that time and time, even when we complain about him as a starter, I say because he's not a starter. But we've needed to have this time, and I had some conversations with people on Twitter earlier too about our contract situation.
Good or bad, because you know how they frustrate you,
and where we've got money going. But we've had to have this process, y'all, to develop these kids, and we've had to have people on that roster in the meantime to be able to go out there and be eligible to compete night in and night out. Whether we're actually competing or not, I'll leave that to the fans to think, if we were actually in every game or not. But it's been a process. And so you would expect that as this team comes together, you find the replacements that are better on the starting rotation and even in the second rotation than what you currently have. If you're not looking to always get better, then what are you doing as a team? And so the Spurs have been developing these guys. Keldon, I don't think that Keldon would be as advanced to the point that he is if he didn't get the highlight of attention that he got in Austin and learning the system there while also having the opportunity to practice with the Spurs. Pop has known all along. He's been there for every step of Keldon's development because they do practice together in San Antonio, especially being one of those guys who's on the roster. You know, he just is spending time in Austin. He's not an Austin Spur. He just spends time in the G League. And so they've known what they've had all along. And this is the process we've been building for. If this season would not have gotten cut short, what we're seeing in the bubble, we would have seen in April. We would have seen in late March, and we started to see it early in mid March when Keldon started to make the road trips with the team at the end of the rodeo road trip. And so this has been a long time coming, but it's been a part of the Spurs process and the approach this whole time. And Keldon looks better than Lonnie because Keldon was a better prospect than Lonnie. Keldon is a better player than Lonnie, which is why Ben and I talked last week on the last show that Keldon will eventually take Lonnie's spot, and Lonnie has already taken Bryn's spot. And that's how we're improving this roster and the pieces. And I'll take this opportunity to push my article again on Project Spurs. Look up my name, Jonas Clark, and I have a new piece out there. It came out about a week and a half ago now about how the puzzle is coming together for the Spurs and how Austin was the key to how that puzzle comes together. So check it out because the puzzle pieces are coming together and we're seeing it before our eyes. And we got to see that last puzzle piece today take the court in the final closing minutes with Luka Šimanić. He's a rough prospect. He's still very raw, but he is developing, and we're gonna see the fruits of his development here in 2022. Don't expect a whole lot in 2021 yet.
Minus some of these comments here from players. They say, why does Keldon look way more ready than? I'm just saying, Keldon is a Kentucky product, and they have a great college basketball system. Players that come from Kentucky look and ready, and then when they go and they get the development with Keldon, G League or even in the summer league, that just gets them that much more depth to playing in the NBA. But you can't say enough great things about what Kentucky does out there with their basketball program. Kudos to all the coaching staff out there, for all the great work they do with all these young players. Because every time you see somebody that's being drafted coming out of Kentucky, you're like, this kid might just have something there. They have the skill set or the tools to work with. So they're not so far behind the curve. But let me go ahead and read some of the other stats that we had from today's game. Comparing Houston and San Antonio. Field goal percentage, Spurs shot 49.5%, Houston 40.4%. Yeah. The Spurs out-rebounded the Rockets, 59.9 rebounds on the game. Rockets only had 37.4. Turnovers, Spurs had 22, Rockets had 18. As far as the fouls go, San Antonio had 20 compared to the Rockets' 19. 3-point field goal percentage for the night. For this game, 40.6 is what San Antonio was shooting from beyond the arc. They shot 13 of 32. The Rockets, not so good tonight. They were 14 of 48 for 29.2% from beyond the arc. Free throw shooting percentage, Spurs 90% on the game. The Rockets were 90.5%. We had 28 assists. This is the big stat here. 28 assists compared to the Rockets' 18. That means that we played great overall team basketball, sharing the ball. We saw a lot of ball movement today, too, which was amazing to see. Steals, we had 10 compared to the Rockets' 14. Blocks, you can attribute that to your boy Blocka Portal. 5 compared to the Rockets' 3. Points in the paint, San Antonio had 48. Rockets had 42. Fast break points, San Antonio 14. Rockets 12. Bench points, bench came up big for us again. Bench had 56 points on the night. The Rockets 43. Largest lead for San Antonio, 29. Largest lead for the Rockets, 5. overall, you look at it and you just say it was a great win for the San Antonio Spurs, regardless of who the Rockets had out there on the court or not. Because I'm guessing that if the shoe was on the other foot, it wouldn't have mattered who we had out there on the court if the Rockets had decimated the Spurs team, regardless of who was injured or not. So you just got to do the best with what you got. Injuries are part of the game, and Derek White, he was a warrior, man. He came to play even though he was injured. So he knows that he needed to be there for his team. So I commend him for that. That's a great team player right there. Great teammate to have in your corner. Let's see what else some of these listeners are saying. Javier Castellan, he says, "Hey Joe, did you see the Knicks fans wanting Derek White? They must be out of their mind. We're not sending him to that ass team." I agree. We're not going to send Derek White.
Untouchable.
Yeah, he's untouchable. We ain't sending them no Derek White. Zervin Pena says they're too small on defense. While they might be small on defense, they are fast and they played great team defense tonight. And if they continue to do that, they can pretty much match up well with anybody, especially when they get back in transition defense. However, points in the paint, that's going to be their Achilles heel because unfortunately, we don't have a lot of bigs to throw at teams, and teams with big, athletic big men give us fits at times. Case in point, coming up against the Utah Jazz on Thursday with one Rudy Gobert. Yeah. So that length might bother us. It's going to be interesting to see how both Jakob Portal and Drew Banks respond to the challenge in front of them. They need to stay out of foul trouble because we need both of them. We can't have them getting into foul trouble early and then Rudy Gobert's going off for something insane like 30 points, in the paint, getting everything he wants. He has to be challenged, but we have to play smart. So we're going to go ahead and start bringing this show to an end because we want to watch the other games just like you guys. We want to see if they're going to, help the Spurs. Are the Spurs going to be able to capitalize on this win and hopefully get some help from the other teams in front of us? I don't know, but I'm going to light my prayer candles up and say a little prayer, and hopefully everything goes good for the San Antonio Spurs. But Jonas, before we go ahead and bring this show to an end, you have anything you want to add here in closing, sir?
Yeah, this was a great night, and Joe, as far as the stats go, this was a team effort on the blocking side tonight. My guy Blockapertle only had one. G League support there coming from Luca and Chimezi. I think, yeah, Eubanks even pulled one, popped one up there too. So, there's a lot of hustle in these young guys. And I want to take a hot second as well to defend Luka Šamanić.
Oh.
If you guys know, the Austin Spurs is really kind of my focus, and it's been something that I've really enjoyed here in Orlando, getting to see a lot of these guys have a lot of run. And I did see a comment pop through that Luka needs a Red Bull. And one of the things that you're going to notice with Luka Šamanić, because he's so raw, and it speaks to the complexity of the Spurs system and what we ask of from our bigs. And we already can kind of see, if you go to the whole advanced stat side and everything, the huge impact that Jakob Poeltl has on this offense, whether he's producing or not. And so Luka Šamanić coming over at just 19 years old, he just turned 20 this year, y'all. He's still developing himself in terms of, how he fits within the Spurs system. So when he looks slow, I attribute that. I haven't talked to the guy, anything like that, but I attribute that to he's trying to make sure that he knows where he's at and where he's supposed to be. So he's still thinking about it. And if you think back to when you first learned how to drive a car, and you had, and it wasn't second nature to turn the turn signal, and it wasn't second nature to roll down the window at the same time and have a conversation and change the dial on the radio. Every little thing, even just, you kind of drove with two hands and you tried to just make sure you were driving down the middle of the lane, and make all the small adjustments as it was happening. And so you weren't necessarily aware to everything else around you. That's why you don't learn how to drive on the actual road. You first start off in a parking lot and then driver's ed, and then you go to, the smaller neighborhoods where the speed limit's only 25. And so you can learn how to process what you're going through at a pace that's less detrimental to everybody else around you. And so that's the same thing for Luka Šamanić. He is right now, he's still in the parking lot, guys. He's still learning how to process at the entire Spurs system at this point. So yes, he looks lost because he is lost at times, and we know the NBA moves fast. Like they see passes and they see moves and stuff like that that you're just like, wow, how did they think of that? Because for them it's second nature, but for Luka it hasn't become second nature yet because it hasn't become instincts. What he provides in terms of size and his skill set is going to be awesome. It's going to be great, but he's got to get to the point where the driving, playing is second nature. So I just wanted to take that second because we haven't seen a lot of Luka. We've seen a lot of cries on Twitter. Play Luka, get him out there. We want to see our first pick because he was selected ahead of Keldon Johnson. And so I think that if we can take that approach with Luka, it's going to be a little bit longer. He's just got his learner's permit. He just came over to the NBA. Give the kids some time to go ahead and develop. But we can speak to Keldon Johnson. We've already talked about it at length here, how he's the blue chip product. He's going to, he's eventually going to be a franchise piece here if he isn't already. I think that between him and Derek White, those are your two untouchable players on this roster. You can make an argument for trading anybody else out, but we don't really need it. We're in a very beneficial position to where we don't need to talk about trading anybody because we're going to see this team grow. They got to win today. Let's go out and get another one on Thursday. Especially now that we know the time against the Jazz, and the chips will fall where they fall. But this season will not be a lost season if the Spurs do what they need to do down the stretch. And they took care of business tonight. They got one more game, and then just take it one game at a time from here as well.
Yep. So with that, Jonas, we're going to go ahead and bring this show to a close. Hopefully everything goes in our favor, and we're talking about the Spurs playing against the Jazz for a buy-in game, where can the people follow you on Twitter, Jonas?
At Jark Clonus. If you've disagreed with anything that I've said here, I'm glad to talk it out and maybe let me know where you're coming at it from and where you see this team's future at Jark Clonus on Twitter. Of course, if you want to check out any of the pieces I have, it's on Project Spurs. I got a piece up there from back in February looking at Drew Eubanks' future with this team. I think that looking back, hindsight's 2020. After seeing his performance here in Orlando, he might have performed his way into a contract. Some Austin Spurs that I really like that could get an opportunity, and I think deserve an opportunity on the two-way contracts we have opening up. I got 3 guys that I listed on Project Spurs article that I think is going to are really going to help this team in the long run as we continue to develop our youth and to continue to develop this team. We've got 3 guys I listed that I think can really help out this team moving forward. So check that out as well on Project Spurs. And I'll have a new article coming out at the end of this week or early next week, looking at some G League performances around the NBA.
And you can also follow me at Two Shots Podcast. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, just about everywhere. Just look us up. Two Shots Podcast, TWOSHOTS Podcast. And I always like talking sports and Spurs basketball with you guys. And also make sure you go and check out the great website that is ProjectSpurs.com. Project Spurs is our partner. We do the Spurs Takeover in partnership with Project Spurs, and they have a great team of journalists that cover the San Antonio Spurs and other sporting venues out there. So make sure you go ahead and take a look at ProjectSpurs.com and also give them a follow on Twitter at Project Spurs. So for Jonas Clark, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you all for watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. Like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind, we're out.